still not here? It's on? Okay, we're on now. All right, welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus. My name is Betsy Smalley, and I'm happy to serve on your Board of Trustees as a co-chair. I am a tall, older woman with short gray hair, and I'm wearing a burgundy top and black pants. Our speakers provide visual descriptions to welcome people with visual impairments and those listening online. We are excited to be in community with you today. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones and move to a seat in the middle of your section to leave room for those people with accessibility needs. Thank you. If you are visiting for the first time, stop by the welcome table in the gallery to pick up a visitor gift with more information about our community. Look for the Getting to Know UU sign in Beach Hall after the service to learn more about our congregation. And everyone is welcome to come chat with me or another board member after the service. Please scan the QR code above or see the Sunday reminder email for our order of worship and announcements, where you can learn about upcoming events and volunteer opportunities here at First UU. Paper copies are available at the greeter stand for those who may need them. Now please rise in body or in spirit to sing, "May Nothing Evil Cross This Door."
No, I'm song leading. May nothing evil cross this door, and may the fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. By faith made strong, the rafters will withstand the battering of the storm. This heart, though all the world go chill, will keep you warm. Peace shall walk softly through these rooms, touching our lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into a shrine. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in. Good morning. I am the Reverend Amanda Hayes. My pronouns are she, her, and I have served as your justice minister or coordinator or ministerial intern since 2017, and this is my last Sunday. Yeah. I will be back to more officially say goodbye on September 28th. But I love you all, and I'll miss you. We gather on the stolen land of the Wyandotte, Miami, Seneca, Erie, Shawnee, Delaware, and Cayuga people, many of whom were forcibly removed. We support the Native American Indian Center of Central Ohio in their Land Back campaign, and we know that we have more to do to be in true relationship and solidarity with this land and those indigenous to it.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Dr. Terasa Cooley. I serve as your developmental minister. I'm so glad to be back with you after several weeks away. And I'm very sorry this is the last service to lead with Reverend Amanda. We greatly, greatly missed. As you can see, we are talking about the history of this congregation this morning. And there are posters all over the place. One of the things I would like you to do is to think about whether you have memories to add to these posters. Now, some of you have been here almost since the beginning. Is Marguerite here? No. Marguerite Malk was here, I think, started in 1950. So how many of you were here in the 50s? 1950s? 1960s? 70s, 80s, here you go, 90s. I did say 70s, yeah, 70s. All right, excellent. So we've got people who have a whole range of experience. We have some stickies in the back that you can collect either at the end of the service, and I'd like you to add some memories to these if you have been around that long. So as I talk about things, memories may come to you. If you are new to the church and you haven't had any of these memories, I'd love for you to go ahead and look at these things after the service. And if there's something that you feel like, yeah, I want to see more of that, put a sticky up there and say, I want to see more of that. Or you can put a sticky up and say, I want to learn more about that, because we're going to come back and talk about these things as we go. So I hope it'll be a fun service for you to engage with our history. So let us begin our service with these words from Hannah Capaldi. Come, let us worship the values that cannot be quantified, the dignity that cannot be perfected, the love which cannot be rushed. Enter now a time of desired inefficiency. Let us sing and pray and hear the good news. And it is now time for our children to meet Gus in the back to prepare to bring in the light. So everybody else, turn to your neighbors and introduce yourself and maybe say a few words about what brought you here this morning.
awakening the fire of our ancestors in our hearts. Beacon of freedom held out to light the way. Light of reason illuminating the path. Spark of courage igniting our spirits. Aglow with hope for all we endeavor to do together. Holy flame of times past, brighten this present moment, that we may be the love that is our center and our foundation both. Blessed be.
Good morning. Thank you, Alara, for helping to light our chalice. And good morning again. My name is Candy Rothert. I use she, her pronouns. I am a woman of later years, but not too late. I have shoulder-length purple hair, and I'm wearing kind of a purplish dress to match. And let's see, today's story is called Where Are You From? Written by Yamil Said Mendez and illustrated by Jamie Kim. Where are you from? They ask. Is your mom from here? Is your dad from there? They ask. I'm from here, from today. Same as everyone else, I say. No, where are you really from? They insist. I ask Abuelo because he knows everything, and like me, he looks like he doesn't belong. Where am I from? Abuelo thinks. He squints his eye like he's looking inside his heart for an answer. You come from the Pampas, the open, free land, he says. You're from the Gancho, brave and strong. From the brown river that cleanses and feeds the land, that gives us the grain for our bread, the milk from the cows. You're from mountains so high they tickle Senor Stilo's belly, where the condor roosts, his family, and the jaguar prowls the night. But you're also from the warm blue oceans, the copper warriors tried to tame, and the elegant palm trees stretched their fingers to caress. You're from hurricanes and dark storms and tiny singing frogs that calls the island people home when the sun goes to sleep. From this land where our ancestors built a home for all, even when they were in chains because of the color of their skin. You're from the grandmothers who search for their grandchildren, waiting, always waiting in the plaza, their white handkerchiefs wrapped the sorrow of their thoughts. You come from the sunshine that lights our path in the world and the rain that washes away our mistakes. But Abuelo, I ask, where am I really from? Abuelo laughs. You want a place? He points to his heart. You're from here, my love, from my love and the love of all those people before us. From those who dreamed of you, because of a song sung under the Southern Cross, or the words in a book written under the light of the North Star. You are from all of us. I am. The end. In this story, a grandparent responds to an oft-repeated racial microaggression with inspired words that celebrate the beautiful complexity of their familia's existence. As we delve into the history of our congregation, let us consider the rich diversity of the individual lives in the past that have led us here. Please remain seated with your hands over your hearts as we sing Go Now in Peace, number 413, to sing our beloved children back to their families, now to the class.
During the months of July and August, our offering plate is benefiting Deaf World Against Violence Everywhere, pronounced or D-Wave. D-Wave's mission is to promote the empowerment of and equality for Ohio's deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing communities by offering culturally affirmative advocacy and education while inspiring community accountability in response to oppression and relationship and sexual violence. DWAVE is a deaf-run agency that has been providing direct advocacy service for 20 years to the deaf, deafblind, deaf-disabled, and hard-of-hearing communities. In addition to passing the basket, you can text to give, scan the QR code, or visit firstucolumbus.org/donate. Thank you for your generosity.
All right, pop quiz. How many of you knew that we have Transylvanian relatives, Unitarian relatives in Transylvania, and Bela Bartok was a Unitarian composer? All these little historical tidbits. Today's pastoral listener is Barb Fiorini. Barb, if you have something on your mind or heart today, Barb will be in Beach Hall following the service, and we'd be glad to listen to what's on your mind. We have some joys and sorrows from our community to share this morning, and there are 3 caring cards to sign in Beach Hall.
So we share joy in celebrating Kelly McNeil's ordination and from 2022, August 27th. And Kelly was in the back hall. Where are you, Kelly? In the gallery. Kelly. And it is also her birthday on August 29th. So happy birthday to Kelly. You can catch her after the service. We extend our care and thoughts to Michelle Miles, who's been experiencing many falls. It's a concern that it may not be properly diagnosed at this time. So we will be thinking of you, Michelle. And to Dennis Rinken and Wolfgang Salazar. Dennis Rinken's niece, Terry, recently died quite unexpectedly. So we send you our sorrow in her passing and in your grief. Please join me in the spirit of prayer, of meditation, of reflection. Let us take a moment to ground our bodies and open our spirits. As I share these words from Laura Martin. Remember that the healing stories use mud and attention and light falling on shoulders. They make miracles, from cups going from empty to full, from feasting on broken pieces of bread. They write a beginning in places where only an ending had been presumed. They take people who are still figuring out what it means to be human, marked by both the finite and the infinite. Consider that one can be healed and still be blind. Consider that one can be healed and still unable to hear or walk. Do not make healing work like an equation. Let the stories give us back our own days, unpolished, real, entirely sacred. Let us see our own lives as the common miracle that they exist at all. Now I will ring our temple bell and we'll have a moment of silence together. case you can't tell, music has been a part of this congregation for many, 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 many years. Our reading this morning comes from Unitarian minister A. Powell Davies. A. Powell Davies organized many, many congregations, particularly in the DC area, around the same time that this congregation was organized. Even though he was not directly involved in this congregation's founding, his spirit, I think, is reflective of what was being created here at that time. He wrote this: "The world that we know is passing. All things grow strange, all but the stout heart's courage, all the undiminished luster of an ancient dream, which we shall dream again, as others have dreamed before us. Pilgrims forever of a world forever new, and what we loved and lost, we lose to find how great a thing is loving, and the power of it to make a dream come true. For us, there is no haven or refuge. For us, there is only the wilderness, wild and trackless, where we shall build a road and sing a song. But after us, there is the promised land, strong from our sorrows and singing from our joy, our gift to those who follow us along the road that we build, singing our song." Please remain seated and join in our meditative hymn number 347, "Gather the Spirit."
Gather the Spirit, harvest the power, our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour, our trials in this light appear all the same. Body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion again.
So I imagine that 85 years ago, it probably felt like the world was coming apart at the seams. Having come through one world war, a several years long pandemic, a great economic depression, and the beginnings of another global war, the spread of fascism. The idea of creating a community in the midst of this, in which people could explore together the meaning of their lives, made sense. So again, we can see an expression of this in the words of A. Powell Davies. The world we knew is passing. All things grow strange, all but the stout heart's courage. All the undiminished luster of an ancient dream which we shall dream again. It was a faith statement they were making 85 years ago, as it felt like things were passing and strange. So let me just pause here and repeat that litany of events. Seemingly endless war, economic depression, years-long pandemic, the spread of fascism. Does that sound familiar? I have long been a believer in the cyclical nature of history. If you really look at how events unfold, you can see that they don't go in a straight line, ever building upon each other. Wars have eventually come to an end. Pandemics have mostly been overcome. Sometimes fascism, at least extreme forms of it, seemed to be defeated. And yet here we find ourselves again. It seems that humanity just begins to learn how to overcome something only to forget that learning in just a few generations. And yet some progress is made, things are built that grow and change and find continued relevance even 85 years later. Things are built like this congregation. The few dozens of people who came together in 1940, I believe, were placing a stake in the ground to declare that they believed in something different than the hopelessness that may have surrounded them. They believed in the inherent goodness of humankind. They affirmed that people could come together even with different viewpoints and different perspectives. They sought to educate themselves about what was happening in the world and to commit themselves to different virtues, the virtues of compassion, of freedom of thought, of inclusion. Their founding statement, "Our bond of union shall be in the love of truth and in the spirit of Jesus, we unite for the worship of God and the service of man. All who are seekers of the truth and lovers of man and wish to share with us in the quest of the good life shall always be welcome and received into the membership of this church, regardless of any theological opinions he may hold." This statement of purpose, written in 1940, probably sounds a bit antiquated to our ears, but it embraced a very different way of thinking than the mainstream religion that surrounded these folks. Now, these ideas were not new to Columbus. There was a Universalist church founded almost exactly a century before, that affirmed that humankind was not inherently evil, believing in the loving nature of God and the role model of Jesus to inspire good action. There was a liberal German church that utilized Unitarian messages and ministers over the years. But the time seemed right to create a new and determined community of people who embraced the principles of Unitarianism that could help them live out their values. So like many Unitarian churches founded during this era, it was deeply related to university and academic life, given our historic affirmation of continued learning. They supported and joined with other religious groups on campus as evidence of their shared values. They supported war refugees, spoke out against fascism, and tried to unflinchingly face the challenges of their world. They were deeply dedicated to the idea of instilling liberal religious values in young people and quickly built up a community of several hundred people that expanded well beyond the buildings that they began with. And they acquired property here in Clintonville and built this rather avant-garde structure that tried to symbolize a horizontal embrace of humankind. Over the years, they continued to grow and change with the times, but rather than relate a linear history, I want to explore just some themes that have emerged as common commitments as well as common struggles that we still engage with today. Just as in Unitarian Universalism as a whole, there's been a constant tension between wanting to live out their very liberal values and yet not be so radical as to be out of reach of most people. From the beginning, they sent letters to elected officials advocating for peace and justice. They supported war refugees and marched in protest both here in Columbus and in other places. Their ministers advocated for racial justice and reproductive rights and queer equality and community organizing. They made proclamation after proclamation after proclamation after proclamation and sent them to their elected officials, whom I'm sure changed because of that. And there were some members who did not like their ministers to be too far out ahead of them regarding justice efforts. Some feared blowback in the community, in the larger community, and some were just uncomfortable with what might seem too radical. I don't want to diminish the many ways in which the congregation engaged with justice efforts over these decades, but just to name that there has been times of ambivalence about that activism and just how far to take things. As I said earlier, one of the founding principles of the congregation was to educate young people, not in the words of an early Unitarian ancestor, to stamp our minds upon the young, but instead to create and foster environments in which children can be introduced to moral concepts, as well as encouraged in their own explorations. The School for Young Children was founded almost 50 years ago to develop and live out this philosophy, even with the youngest of children. If you missed the service earlier this summer that celebrated this service, the School for Young Children, I encourage you to watch the video and be incredibly inspired by the way in which they approach education. The RE program was always large, and over the years they practically burst the seams of the building. They ordained a premier religious educator, Carol Brody, who inspired generations of teachers and children. And they rarely compensated their religious educators in any way comparable to the male ministers, except one time when they had a male religious educator. Now that's changed in the last decade or so, thank goodness, but I think we still struggle with how to bring religious exploration and family programs into the congregation in ways which are fully integrated with all else. UU congregations have long affirmed their nature as voluntary organizations, led not by hierarchies or top-down leaders. And since this congregation became fairly large almost from its inception, it relied upon almost an army of volunteers who did everything from making coffee to running the board meetings. At one point, it was said there were more than 56 committees going at once. How many of you were part of one of those 56 committees? As much as we might shudder today at the thought of that many committees, it was necessary to keep this vibrant community going. It wasn't just that they didn't think they could afford more ministers or staff, but they really made a deliberate decision to have members invested in a multitude of ways. Those were the days when people, most, especially women, had more expendable time and energy to engage with such efforts. But once our culture started shifting away from that, it became challenging, to say the least, to keep things running the way that they had been. So creating a governance system that is truly grassroots, that involves as many people as possible, and which can also get things done. Let me just add that piece, also get things done, is probably the holy grail of Unitarian Universalist congregations, which we have yet to achieve. No one has yet found that perfect balance, and we are once again asking the question of how we can govern the church in ways that are as non-hierarchical as possible, that balances staff knowledge with lay perspectives, and that maintains what is most important while allowing change to be constant. Simple, right? Stay tuned for more about how we will explore this in the coming year. And then there is the question of how all this was and can be paid for. Even voluntary organizations needed ministers and staff buildings to house the programs and supplies to keep the things running. It seems that throughout its history, this congregation has struggled with how to bring in the money to pay for things. Again, not unique in Unitarian Universalism. Despite our relative wealth, creating a culture of generosity while not wanting to rely on guilt or tithing has been a long-held dream. It probably didn't help that they first invested in an avant-garde building that you will see the remains of in the center of the building that was probably better suited for a California climate. I think there's not been a time in our history when the roof has not leaked. There have been some major capital campaigns to improve and expand the building, to which people gave quite generously. Thank goodness for this beautiful space. But the ongoing upkeep and yearly budgets have almost always been a struggle. And then there's always been the question about what fair compensation is for church staff and ministers. Those of us who dedicate our careers to congregations are indeed lucky to engage with such meaningful work. But it shouldn't be at the sacrifice of making a living wage in concert with our skills and education. So if spiritual reflection and social justice engagement are two pillars of UU congregations, the third would be community connections. From potluck suppers to yoga classes to coffee houses to drama productions, First UU seems to have done it all. As Unitarian Universalists, we strive to honor the whole person in all the ways in which we can be creative and to be caring people. Glorious music amplifies our worship. Art installations pop up like spring bouquets all year round. And just like in our governance, they celebrate the participation of everyone, not just the professionals. Social groups of all sorts have allowed for connections of identity or life situation. Connection has also always been about caring for one another as well. Whether it be illness or life challenges, people here show up for one another and help each other to face not just the difficulty, but the fear and the uncertainty and the loneliness as well. Many say that this congregation has saved them, not in the theological sense, but in their personal lives. And it must be said that there have also been times when deep wounds have occurred. Ministers or professionals who crossed boundaries and took advantage of their position. social organizations which took connection just a bit too far. People who felt overlooked or overpowered, arguments that may have spiraled out of control, demeaning microaggressions or even macroaggressions by people in the dominant culture. All of this, like any community, have been a part of the fabric of this community as well. Mistakes that must be named, harm that must be confronted, apologies that must be made. The high ideals of Unitarian Universalism make it all the more heartbreaking when we don't live up to them, or sometimes even come close. But knowing that this community has been far from perfect doesn't mean that it can't be celebrated for the incredible miracle that it is. I often think about how remarkable it is that so many people are willing to give of themselves, their time and their talent and their treasure to make a community that tries to take the mud and sticks of everyday life and transform them into the warming cloth of community. Would we have the courage today to do what those 25 people did 85 years ago? To recognize that the world that we know is passing, and the heart's stout courage is needed now more than ever. There's much still to be built together. The task is not done. There's much that we still need to learn about what community could and should be, much that we can still celebrate about the human spirit, much that we still must do to confront the cloud of hate and divisiveness that befogs our lives. Thinking about the courage and the steadfastness and the contributions of so many people over the decades gives me hope not just for our future, but a conviction of the goodness that we can still create together. Amen. Please join in our final hymn, number 145, as Tranquil Streams. Please take the hand of someone close to you, or place your hand on your heart if that feels more comfortable to you. Again, from A. Pell Davies. For there is no haven or refuge. For us, there is only the wilderness, wild and trackless, where we shall build a road and sing a song, But after us, there is the promised land, strong from our sorrows and singing from our joy, our gift to those who follow us along the road that we build, singing our song. Amen. Please join me in our chalice extinguishing. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and love.